Okay, so the situation is we've had o1-pro for 13 days. We've
Yep.
burned, I don't know, between 60 and $100 worth of tokens every day.
Yeah.
An unprofitable amount of tokens from OpenAI's point of view.
Yeah. But yeah, take
We've
parts of it when we can.
been at it pretty much round the clock. Like I'm checking tasks at it on my phone just before I go to sleep. We get up, I'm doing stuff on it. Like it's just been slammed. We've made tools that let us hit up to its token limit, which context window, which turns out its context window is 200K. Um, all these things, right?
Yeah, we got knowledge graph thoughts, which is not an easy thing to do in
Yeah,
terms of actually structuring knowledge.
right. And so
We've
so
also got
now
reminder and so on. Yeah.
now there's a collection of problems that have made me very uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll try and lay them out, and then we can dig into each one, and you can add yours as well. Number one, it's apparent to me that the fact that I can get o1 to make software just by chatting to it, and that software comes out doing more advanced things than I can do in software.
Pretty existential, isn't it? That one.
So it makes and this is only 1 year worth of model improvement from GPT-4. Looking to the future, 2-3 years from now, I feel like right now the cost of software is nearly zero. In a year, it'll just be nothing. And so, what's a girl
Yeah.
to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're a software engineer and you got this thing, right, and it's
If you're
like,
not
well,
shitting yourself, you should be. And if you are a startup uh, making tools of any kind, you should be just trying to cash in quickly.
yeah,
Um, there's
right. So
yeah.
that's
I'm
the
just going to
first
go
that's
through
the
this. And
first sort of overview.
where's my
This
arm over there? It's doing something weird. Okay, that's better.
the second issue. So I guess to sum up the first one or conclude it, what's a software engineer to do in a world with no software? And you and I need to decide that very quickly what we want to push on because um, for a time it's an advantage that we can make code for nearly free when other
Yeah.
people can't,
Mm-hmm.
but very quickly that will level out and it won't be an advantage anymore. So temporarily it's like the biggest advantage ever. It sort of feels like we just robbed a bank, but the rate of inflation is such that while we're starting to launder the money, it's becoming less and less valuable. So,
Do you want to go through all your worry beads, or
yes,
shall we
yes,
go through each one first?
yes. Sorry, I delayed on that one because
Okay.
all of these
Yeah.
things bother me greatly.
Yeah.
Um, second one is now that I can make code at this alarming rate, what what our partnership was I make the code, you do the inference.
Mm-hmm.
The toil of the code has been removed from me. Now I do the inference as well. What now is the most effective configuration for our partnership?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like with o1-pro, I can do the stuff that you were doing for helping me, as well as doing the stuff um, that I needed to do for the code modules too. So
Mm-hmm.
what is the most effective thing for us to do? Um, So the the point of that is if we can get we should start to think of Dreamcatcher Command as an entity, an artificial entity. And even though it can't think for itself right now and it can't really make good decisions just yet, we hope that in the next few weeks it will. We should think of the Dreamcatcher from its point of view. And we should ask o1-pro questions as though it was from its point of view so that we can earnestly think on its behalf. What would it have us do if this was our resources, this was the accessible time we had, the skills we had, the people we know, and all that? How would this thing assign us to do these things? What would it have us do if we have these skills? And these skills have changed radically. Like being able to make code from an AI, being able to make code without coding is like a radical new skill. So again, what's a girl to do, right? And then the third one.
Writing these down, by the way. So
that's okay. Trust me, they are written in my in my quivers and shakes. I will not forget these problems easily. The third one is that time is up for the tracking guys. They are no longer able to sustain their business without a software tool in it. And so fortuitously, we have this ability to make code very quickly. Previously, because of the toil of code, we had to make them run on our platform, because otherwise we'd be building two hugely laborious things. But now that we can spit that stuff out like a sneeze, maybe it doesn't even matter that they, so long as we use the Dreamcatcher to make the code that they have, you know, the correlation between them running on our platform and them using software that was produced by our platform that isn't our platform's code, you know, that starts to be, that's different. And it makes me see that the connection between them running on the Dreamcatcher platform was artificially forced through poverty. We had a code poverty problem where it was so expensive and painful, and so we lashed those two ships together. But they don't need to be. And now these guys are calling time and they're saying we can't go on like this, we gotta do something. They're happy to deal, they're happy to pay up front, they're happy to, you know, like, so long as we make a reasonable deal. We need to find a way that it doesn't cost us too badly from our core principles to do this for them, because I think we owe them and I think it's good for us. But what does it really look like, especially when we consider now that you and I have to reevaluate what our roles are and what the roles of who do we need other people, all that kind of thing. So that's problem number 3.
Okay.
All yours.
Okay. Right. I'm going to start off by compressing and summarizing, and please pick me up as I go along.
Sure.
If anything I say is out of whack and I've not understood. On number 1, I'm getting the same thing. It is ludicrously easy. And it seems that the skill, which is as far as I can see, still quite rare, is to go meta on it. The same way
Meta
as you've
meta
gone
prompting.
meta. Yeah, so you've
Yep.
gone meta on code.
Yep.
I'm going meta on prompting.
Right.
But also, what that means is you can generate a lot of stuff really quickly, which is already getting to, which is why I've been banging on about knowledge trees and so on. Because you can do stuff quickly doesn't mean you should do it.
Nah, you
And
can
so,
choke. You can choke really fast, man. Like,
yeah,
I that's really why I feel ill, is because it generates the correct stuff I asked for so fast that I can't process it all.
yes,
And
right.
so, what's a
And
girl to do?
you'll have experienced this,
It
where
makes me dizzy. It makes me feel like
one
vomiting.
small prompt gives you like 1,000 words, which is like, ah.
Mm.
But then those 1,000 words are all cross-referenced with a knowledge tree. You think, is that right?
Yeah,
And so very quickly you get to the idea of saying, well, if you say it's right, I'm just going to take on faith. And it's like, that's not good.
that's dangerous. No, yeah,
Yeah,
then you're screwed.
exactly.
Um,
So my first point is, and this is still the compression. Um, what what should we be doing?
yeah,
I think we're converging. Um, the thing that we have, which others don't, is the fact that we've got history. We know each other. We know our, you know, how we talk works and so on. But I think we are both going meta, and by going meta, we're actually meeting in the same space.
it is the same space. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the first point. Now the other
Well,
point of
finding that
swoosh.
you're also in a prison cell with your buddy still doesn't help the fact that you're still in prison.
Okay, I have no idea what that means.
Well, it means that just because we're converging, I mean, so how does that help us?
Well, what I do know is I get a lot from these conversations. If I was just to do this alone, it would be difficult. If we were to do this with three people, it would be more difficult.
Yep.
And so we seem to have a resonance that works.
Right. But we also need to, like, what does it mean to have more people?
No,
And
no, we don't.
no, hang on,
We don't.
hang on.
Sorry.
Wait a
All right.
second, wait a second.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever,
I still haven't got to the
whatever.
end of my shmush.
Yeah. But you said something outrageous.
What was that?
Whatever we're doing, we should be able to induct more people effortlessly and it be of benefit. That is the point of the Dreamcatcher.
Yes, but
And now you're saying we're in a point where
if we had,
it's even
uh,
worse to add one more person to what we're doing.
no. I'm not saying that at all. Dreamcatcher allows collaboration, hypothetically, of 1,000 people. You get 1,000 people in a room and trying to get them to actually do anything sensible, pretty much impossible. But if you're to have a breakdown through, say, Commander, where there's small groups that find their own resonance and work well as a cell or even as a singleton, then so long as it's working in a focused way towards the head mark that the commander is saying, yes, you're all heading over here. For example, there's a reason that there's only 4 people in an SES cell, because any more is actually detrimental, any less is detrimental. So that's their resonance. Now, so my first point is I think the inevitably what we're seeing is we need to go meta on what we're doing because it's the rate of acceleration as opposed to acceleration. Everyone's getting acceleration, but our acceleration need to accelerate faster.
Right.
Now, the second part is on the trucking guys. And it does disturb me that for all our thinking, we still seem to be, although we probably could do a single 4-day sprint and actually just do it,
Yep.
we haven't. So that's now going
which
straight into the tactical, the mud part. So we're going meta. I'm
we
talking about
feel
meta.
like we can deliver for them, and yet we don't.
Yes,
Why
because
is that?
we're getting very skilled at the meta, which I think long term is
Yeah,
the right
and
thing to do.
we've
But
also
we
been,
don't
yeah,
actually deploy
but
it.
also we have throughout the years constantly been obsessed with trying to define what the Dreamcatcher is, to specify it in detail, and we have once again become hooked on that because we can see that this time around we're going to get it because we've got o1-pro, and that feels like enough.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so would it hurt
Mm.
to take 2 months where we just delivered this thing for them?
Well, no. Remember, uh, I'm an advocate of what did I call it the last time? Um, Something concrete that
Test.
you actually
Yeah,
test. You do
yeah,
it. You're actually doing something because that's going
doing
to throw out a
something.
whole bunch of stuff instead of talking at the kind of meta level, which is important, but
Right.
it's
Okay. So the
theoretical
options
as
ahead of
opposed to
us,
practical.
and I had some very helpful input from my darling wife about this.
Hmm.
She's very smart in these kinds of things, and also it helps to have someone who isn't, you know, knee deep in mud and the weeds about it to say, here's the top level view and all that. And so
Hmm.
her with a bit of back and forth, it was narrowed down to saying, well, mergers and acquisitions, right? Like that seems to be the most. It's not the most lucrative, but it's the most solid type of, like, it's the most faithful way of establishing ourselves and getting a strong revenue. Who knows how big we can scale that, all that. But as was pointed out, it's also kind of risky because you've only got a couple of shots in the gun, and you actually need a lot of other people to work out for you as well. Like, it's not something that we can do on our own. Plus, you might pick the wrong market, and the sector goes to rubbish, and then you know, then we're kind of hooped.
Yeah, nothing that can be replaced by AI.
Right. But on the other hand, you know, it seems pretty feasible. It seems like pretty good money pretty quick, but maybe we're thinking too small with that one. I don't know. But the second option of three is that we could take advantage of this ability to generate software very quickly and then just sell actual software for a short time, because whilst the gradient is huge, like right now, hell, everyone I spoke to today pretty much still hadn't used o1-pro, or some of them were unawares of o1-pro, and they work in the AI industry.
Yeah,
And
there's an
so,
information gradient, a huge
right,
information gradient.
right. And we
Yeah.
spent like night and day for the past 2 weeks, and we ended up in a weird place, which we expected. We didn't know what it was, which was that now prompting is maths. And, that's strange for a number of reasons, but here we are nonetheless.
Yeah.
What to do. So, the third angle is to build the blockchain, because in actual fact, the amount of money we'd need to spend and the time and the effort is probably less, given our newfound skill of being able to produce code at this pace. I would say that it's cheaper in terms of time and money and risk to launch a blockchain than it is to acquire even a medium business, even a small business. Right? Does that
Hmm.
does that sound does that sound right?
Yeah. There's the fourth option, of course,
Okay. Fourth one
is
is,
deliver truckers
well,
app.
yeah. So here's maybe a compromise, right? We could we could say that, because we could say that you work primarily on the blockchain, which at this stage is getting the reasoning domains correct for the different components of it.
Okay, go on.
During that time, I deliver the trucking app using this newfound talent of being able to magically talk code into existence, which I'm still not au fait with, but here it is nonetheless, and it works. It just sounds like something out of a movie, but anyway, it's here.
Yeah.
And then when that is delivered, at the same time, we're sort of going on about Dreamcatcher command, the Stux map, generating Stux, all those things are all sort of part of your purview day to day. I come in with like some code modules here, some code modules there, to try and sort of reconcile that logical thinking and reasoning in. We do renders with each other in our calls. I render to you what's happened in the trucking app development because there will be hurdles. You render to me what's happened in the blockchain development. The cycle continues. At the end of it, we've got a deployed system that pays cash at least, maybe some equity, maybe some revenue share, I don't know. But either way, pay some cash. Second of all is a strong use case of not just our software modules that are reusable, but also our capability of being able to make them in a grand old hurry compared to previously. And then thirdly, we can still transition from that point to acquisitions locally or in partnership with these guys or whatever, because they can sort of start to be looking at it from their angle of like, well, what else do we need in a business, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then at that point, we make a decision, but I come back and start pushing on the blockchain if it even needs to be pushed on, if I was unable to make the modules required for it over the next couple of months.
Okay. I agree in the prioritization that you've just given. I would put a couple things above that, or one thing above that, but one derivative step, which is pretty close. And the one thing above that is harking back to, I keep on banging on about how if you're working faster and faster, complexity actually is the key metric, or dealing with complexity. And that comes down to the commander, and the commander needs a good knowledge structure in order to work. So I think that is still the prime thing. Because if we were to do, if I go off and do some blockchain stuff, you go off and do some trucking stuff, that's all fine. But we're generating at a faster rate, and that complexity quite quickly is going to overwhelm us. So we need some way of actually dealing with that. The commander is a render of a knowledge tree. And that render allows far more complexity to be dealt with.
I think you need the commander for what you're doing. I think I can deliver the trucking app without it.
Okay, well, so what I'd say, rather than me working on the blockchain then, is I work on commander and the knowledge structure that's necessary in order for it to actually give really good results.
Why is that not the blockchain?
Because it doesn't need the blockchain to start with.
But the blockchain needs it, right?
We just run on Git.
No, the blockchain needs the commander.
Yes. This is why I'm saying the commander's first, then the blockchain.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
No. The blockchain is dependent on having the commander, right? Like when we publish this blockchain that we've been speaking of, the commander's in it. It's part of the suite of things that come with it. Yeah.
Yes, but in
Okay,
order to handle
so
the complexity of that,
so
uh,
so all I'm saying is that building a commander is part of building the blockchain.
oh, it's
That's
yeah,
all I'm trying to
um,
say. I don't know why there's a
uh, no,
discrepancy there.
it's just a in terms of stocks, and stocks can
Yeah,
be
but that's in the details of what's inside it. Like making a blockchain is like taking the Falklands. It's like, shall we just do it? Or, do we break it down into these different things? The command is just simply a breakdown, right?
yeah, which is why I'm saying the commander's first. The commander says,
Sure.
right, um, yeah, sure, as a commander, I'm going to run the blockchain. That's fine. How about you decide
Yep.
what I am?
Okay. We got that settled. So now what?
Um, the uh, the route through to this is I continue work on the commander. Uh, there's a number of sub points, sub stocks that we need to work through in order to get that actually working well. You crack on with the trucking stuff, and you're bringing work back or insights in the use of the Shonky version on any one day of what the commander is doing and the knowledge tree is doing. We're using Git as a proxy for blockchain. Blockchain is next. Once we get into a reasonable even half place where we think the commander is going to be, and then we start bootstrapping from there. Sounds to be the right order of things.
Okay. And so, you know, what's a girl to do? Are you saying that you agree with the blockchain being the thing to do long term, or is this mergers and acquisitions path
Oh, I know.
part of
Sorry,
it? Or
I missed that. The M&A is way down. That's at the bottom level of once we get a tool, where do we point? Well, once we get the rail gun, where do we point the rail gun?
yeah,
M&A sounds like a good target,
yeah,
but
but
we
it's
don't
hard to
start
know
with
where
M&A.
it's hard to know where our feet are. Like, how do I know I didn't just shoot my foot off by pointing it at an M&A target?
Largely because we don't have a rail gun, so you can't shoot your foot off.
That's no. I'm trying to work out what's the. I don't want to be stuck doing stuff that doesn't have a long term play to it, because this advantage we have today won't be here in 6 months. The rest of the humans are going to catch us. They're going to know how to make code for free. Well,
Um,
you can't
yep.
sell them stuff that's free.
So my proposition was that we can responsibly delay the decision about M&A or perhaps another target that
Okay,
comes
all right.
into the
So
field.
we're still emotionally committed to M&A, but we're deferring the action on it until we have completed the tracking app, uh, and we'll just take it as
Yep.
we'll do the tracking app. You'll reason through how to get a commander up, which is then used to continue reasoning through the blockchain. Um, and then we'll have delivered software for these guys. We've tested our commander tool. We've tested parts of the blockchain because that would have inevitably fallen out. We may have a crappy little stuck loop running. Should be a halfway decent one. Um,
Yep. And then we haven't mentioned Dreamcatcher, with a key thing because we are effectively already through commits recording and these recordings recording contribution.
Call
But
me
we were talking
foolish,
yesterday
but
about value.
yeah, attribution for contribution doesn't seem so far away anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Like, if we ended up in a
Um,
place where we got a functioning blockchain and the only thing left to solve was how to do attribution for contribution, and that's all we had to do, that's kind of paradise. Like,
yeah, yeah,
we're gonna get it. We're gonna
I
get it.
agree. And right now, all we should be worrying about, or we don't even need to worry about it because we're already doing it, is recording contribution. And there's questions that will come through about value, which we were talking about yesterday.
Mm.
But that's part of Commander,
Mm.
kind of substuck of Commander, on how to prioritize.
And then we make this blockchain. This blockchain has its native proof of work. Like, it doesn't have a secondary token like how Bitcoin's token is secondary to its proof of work. The work is the token. So it's
Yep.
direct in that
Yep.
sense. And then we sort of start using it for different things, showing people that it's a valuable place to put your data and run your serverless workloads and all that. Just anyway, like it makes good internet. And then figure out how to build from there with the help of the commander, how to get revenue flowing through that, right? And then every action we take that builds that chain builds our personal contribution that gets attributed to for as long as that chain is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right?
And then we've got a real gun. Then it's just down to targeting.
And guaranteed the targeting is going to shift. Yeah, okay. All right, that settles that then.
You happy with that?
Happy is not the word I'd choose right now.
Content. Are you content with that?
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Happy is not a word for this time in my life, I don't think.
I'm content with that.
All right.
In terms of the stack priorities and the division of labor, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
And the as soon as you get the trucking app cycle done.
All right, so when we hop off this call, we need to figure out a deal that we'll put to them that's fair for everyone involved. Okay, so the next topic, if I may, was any other? No,
yeah, that's good.
The next topic is what was
fast, but yeah, that was very fast. Me saying that's good.
Okay. The next thing is that what landed today is the API for o1.
5 good Scots pounds.
I'll give you pounds next time I see you.
It's got to be a note.
I know. I'll find the crustiest one that's all tattered and torn and has like drug traces on it and all sorts of stuff, and be like, "Here you go."
yeah, it's at least 1% cocaine.
Yeah. Okay. But what landed was now o1 came out, and o1 has got tool calls and structured outputs, and it performs better than 4.0 at deciding when to call a tool and then calling it correctly.
Okay. Right. I've not had a chance to check out their documentation yet, but
how
does that relate to naps? Because
well,
that's sort of what we were aiming at.
Because now I'm sort of saying, well, and they haven't given us full o1-pro. They promised that it would come soon, but what they did give is in o1, you get this parameter called effort, which is like how much reasoning effort, how hard will it try to reason, and that's a low, medium, high setting. So it's kind of like, I think pro is like ultra.
All right.
But we do get the low, medium, high settings, which is cool too.
So do they do that as a reasoning step before it actually carries out the effort?
No, the developer sets that, because that influences the price. That sets the price.
Got it. How hard are you going to try on this?
Yeah.
Got it.
So these models are eye-wateringly expensive. I think it's like $60 per million output tokens. You know, which is getting up there. It's getting up there.
That's. Mm,
It's getting up there.
I could burn. I could burn through that.
I know, I know, I know, I
Start
know,
really
I
fast.
know. And so the sort of the question is, and this is the balance, right? This is the competition with the trucking app is building a platform upon which o1 can make tool calls, spawn instances or threads of itself, so that if you've got a problem, it can say, okay, we need to break it up into 4 possible paths, and then
Well,
instances.
oh, sorry. Go on. Go on.
I think you got it
I think I
anyway,
got
mate.
your idea. It's a lot like model switching internally, isn't it?
It's not that. It's I have in mind a platform that can do that stuff for us. So I don't think it serves us to get into the details of how that would work, because that's definitely a separate conversation. And to be honest with you, I think that I would, not that I don't value talking to you about details, but I think I'd get better output from o1-pro. I don't know how to say that without being insulting, but I do think that o1-pro would be better at figuring it out for me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because this is the weird thing that's now shifting in our dynamic in the relationship between all humans on Earth. Is like, it's better than me at doing that, so I'm going to talk to it. It's also better than you, and so there's almost less need for us to talk about the old things we used to talk about, but there is some new thing, which is like about the steering. It's like,
Well, it's what I'm saying about AI can only ever be derivative. So talking about how it does something is
yeah,
derivative. What the implications are,
I
you can
actually
get a
I
good
think it's a disservice
guessing.
what you say when you talk about it as derivative. I think it's a disservice to the appearance that it is very capable of giving, where it appears novel because it derived from something that, from my point of view, is novel. Like, I've never heard of a Fitch diagram before, but
Well,
turns out that's a well studied thing, and that
well, that's
sounded
just
novel, right?
yeah, but by derivative, it's not the same as
I'm
novel, right?
Yeah,
So
but
novelty
you
is discovery, right?
yeah,
You discover
but it
something.
has the illusion of novelty. That's the thing, and that's why I want to change the way that you describe it, because that's not the problem, or that's not the thing that we bring. The thing that we bring is, now it's sort of like a pair of idiots get hold of like this massive war machine,
Hmm.
and they start steering. They talk about how they're going to steer it, or someone found like the nuclear launch button and they wonder what it does. And we're in that position. We are vastly outgunned by this thing that we now control fully. And so our conversation is going to be about what the thing did, as opposed to how to do the thing that now the machine is doing for us.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
right?
somewhat. I think there's still value in discussing this sort of thing because what that allows us to do is to make predictions. Is this red button on the bridge going to launch a nuclear missile or make
Mm.
the coffee? Would be a good thing to actually think about in advance and then test it and so on.
I think it doesn't.
Because
It doesn't matter what we. It doesn't matter to decide now what we will end up talking about. It's just simply true that we need to introduce a discipline in our conversations where there is no point talking about the details without having had a couple of rounds with o1-pro first, because we'll be framed better.
sure, yeah, of course, yeah, we'll just have a briefing note,
Mm.
but we'll just generate our own briefing notes first.
So I know how to make a platform that does this. It harnesses o1 to be able to run multiple concurrent paths of investigation to solve a problem. It will use o1 to loop on itself to correct minor errors. I know how to do that. Doing that competes with building the trucking app. I don't know how it works yet, given the amount of time or the small amount of time it takes to make an app now. But I'm just, I guess, how to schedule or how to juggle is like super weird now because I'm like, well, what is having that platform important? Because now I don't have to cut and paste and go into o1-pro, or should I just deliver the tracking app and then build that platform, or like,
Well,
is there a case
cutting,
where building
cut,
that platform is more important?
at the moment, actually interesting, o1-pro is running slightly slower than preview. I suspect that's
I think it's
because of
load.
demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found that if
Um,
I'm running 5 concurrent jobs, it also runs a little slow for me. So they must
yeah.
somehow count how many tokens each
Yeah.
person is burning.
Which weirdly means you're left with 25 to 30 seconds to figure out what to cut and paste next, unless you want the output.
Yeah,
But then,
right. And that's part of why I want
that's
the
fine.
I want the plates to be spun automatically. I don't want to be, because I'm finding it very jarring to have to go from like deeply into the weeds on this one thing that's like incredibly interesting, and I'm learning new stuff from O1 all the time, and then next minute I'm like, well, I gotta go jump over to this other thing because it's been thinking for 2.5 minutes, and I can't just sit there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Um,
a platform that would spin the plates for me.
well, the cutting and pasting problem really is, in order to not swamp the context, there usually is a number of steps and you're waiting for some kind of summary. But then, you've got another one where you're asking another thing, which is the nap to nap communication thing.
Let's just chat net to net.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I'm waiting for a summary, and then okay, I'll cut and paste the summary over. But now it's just got the summary and it's lost information. Um, and so,
And now I also have to like up our subscription level on the function invocation service because O1 takes so long when you tell it to think hard that the serverless function times out. So you sort of gotta. It's all these knock-on effects. I was like, Christ, like, it's just like, man, can we just get some stability in the house? Like, it's just everything's breaking everything. I
yeah,
got
well,
a
everything's
2.5 minute function
nothing's
call.
working as an engine. Some parts work really well, but
Yeah, some parts are achieving fusion. Other parts have like,
it's like, where's your transmission? Oh, shit.
it's like, well, we took it out because So, okay.
So your question was, is it worth spending time on a tool that's
Well,
basically
I guess that the art is, can I do the tracking app and the tool at the same time? And actually, now that I think about it, maybe I can, because the tool is this thing. It's ta-da. Oh, who now? The tool is this, and I'm just gonna deliver the tracking app on this. And so these guys have been updating their models quite well. So I can do like write some code now. And so now it has like a little coding environment in it that pops up.
hey, Dijkstra. Yeah. And okay, so fine. With what we were just saying about the putting weights into O1, I'm not entirely sure that model switching's as good as switching between naps, but we talked about that before. But other than that,
Yeah, I guess I want a way to have a platform that we can very easily experiment with these different strategies by which you'd want to harness the power of O1. And the strategy would be packaged as a nap.
Mm.
So sounds like we still need naps.
Well, what? Let me talk about Cursor for a second, if I can,
Okie
because
dokie.
it hopefully informs this.
Right.
With all the power of AI and Cursor and so on, really what I've been doing, using it for most, is two things: pointing it at stashed text files
Yeah.
in the prompt,
Right.
and then stashing results.
Right. Which sounds very automatable.
It does, doesn't it? And now, already we've got the position where, for example, in the repo naps, you've got your project map work, and but it's stored in next still. I'm working
Yeah.
on main, so I don't have access to it, and so I can't reason using it. And so it's like, do I cut and paste? That sounds really bad. But having some kind of
Right. Why stop
uniform,
now?
yeah, this is why the knowledge hierarchy, um, it should be very straightforward, but it just needs to be those two steps. You take an app and you say, I'm talking about this and that and this, and I want you to do that, and you've outputted it and stash it in this. Does that make sense? Now consider this, 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 and this. Have you broken anything?
That sounds like implementation or a specific strategy.
Well, I'm saying how I'm using cursor because remember it is a specific
Yeah.
strategy because
Yeah. So that
there's
seems
only one
that
tool.
seems yeah, that seems trivial to put into this platform. So maybe I should do that
Oh,
because
trivial. That would be brilliant.
yeah, cuz it still feels like we should be running on Git because I think I can avoid if I defer um the the parallel function execution of artifact and just present artifact as a pure database where it's just Git, and when you want a new branch you got to ask for it. It doesn't do any of the execution internally, so it's just a database, a consistency store. um, then that might be easier to, because we don't want to lose the Git thing. Firstly, because we had it working, so why should we give it up now?
It's a
Um,
proxy for a blockchain as well.
yeah, it's
For
on the
now.
path to the blockchain, and then if I can get it working in this front end that we deliver the trucking app on, that's great. But we still need this Stux map thing. Like we still need some data structures like Stux.
Yes, that hasn't gone away. Why are you highlighting that? Stocks are just a task.
Because,
Sorry,
well,
just a text file. Sorry,
no,
just a
because
text
it
file.
needs to be put into the platform so that when you hit the stuck button, like here, it does something, right? Like that seems unique. We want that to be in the tracking app
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
right?
But that basic functionality I described solves that for now. You can get bells and whistles, but when you hit that stuck slap, the stuck button,
Hmm.
we've got direct and indirect. So you hit the button, that's a direct stuck, and
Mm-hmm.
then you go and talk to an AI in the context of saying, "Why are you stuck? What's wrong, man?" It's like,
Yeah.
I went into that, and then it stashes it. So again, AI is just a stash, and the need to target um, individual folders or files like Cursor does is really important because otherwise you're going to get weirdness because the context is going to be too wide. You hit that, and it's like, right, I'm now talking about this thread, and I see this is stuck. And now you've got a new nap that is saying, right, let me give me a second and read it. Yeah, okay, right. I think I just see. Is this what you're saying
Okay,
with this stuff?
yeah. So, all right. So we still need naps. We still need artifact, but without the execution component. So I'll run the AI. The AI will be running effectively in the browser, like it'll feel like it's running in the browser, but it will just be storing its end result into artifact as a database, which is not terribly different to how things are here now.
Yeah, it just needs to store it somewhere that you can then refer to it, but you can refer to chunks of it. That's the important thing. So this is going to get quite large quite quickly. It already is. You don't want to ingest the entire thing, and so you
Yeah,
need to say
yeah.
that bit.
Okay. So then we need still the nap execution environment because that's key to how things actually run and how tools get called and all that.
Yep.
So that's also
And then,
fine.
yep, we talked about 3 calls ago, and I think we were aligned on that one. Um,
Man, it's a real bugger. It just doesn't seem very hard
so let's
to
just do
do
it.
all these things. And then I'm like, well, should we
And
just.
the last thing we should keep on banging on about is every time I make a change to the reasoning repo, I end up in a cycle of can you check
The
all
reconciliation
the
cycle.
domains
Oh, right. Because
revalid?
that's really
Yeah,
slowing you down, eh? I think we also need to turn on that platform. We need to implement billing per user because, like, O1's pricey. Like, doing the stuff you're talking about is gonna run us about 250 a freaking day.
shit.
So
How does that? I've not looked at the pricing model change. We got the o1-pro for $200 a month, but tooling turns into $250 a day.
yeah, actually, I shouldn't be a cheap ass because like that's
No,
probably we'd probably be getting good value out of that.
yeah,
Um,
but I don't want to accidentally, be triggering something that is effectively eat all you want to pay for every small morsel.
yeah, I know, right? That's the thing. So we could use lesser models, I suppose.
But the $200 a month gets us o1-pro unlimited tokens.
Yeah. So O1, $60 per 1 million tokens out
Hold on a
output.
second. How does this? I'll read this after. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
Either way, don't worry about it. I think if we get that, we know the price is going to come down. Worst case, we can use the mini version of O1. O1 Mini is still pretty smart. There's some great tuning ability that's coming, like the reasoning tuning that's on its way. So we'll just deal with it. We'll call it money well spent. So um, basically, what you're saying is that there's some very simple automations, triggers, if you will, that loop over or do standard things, and those would make your life go a lot better if they just happened automatically,
yeah, but they're
right?
also so fundamental that I think it's going to help everything that we
Yeah,
do.
right. So it's almost like there's a rule for choosing tasks. It's like if it helps everything, then we should do it because that would help me write the code
Yeah,
a lot faster.
it's almost like a priority zero, even above commander, because commander's taking this conversation.
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, I could make the tracking app with just copy pasting in and out of O1, but that's not doesn't feel like the smartest thing to do. The smartest thing is to get the amplifying tool up.
Yeah,
But it's also the riskiest because what if I hit problems in the amplifying tool? Then I'm like, oh, okay. So why don't we go with that then? I'll make the amplifying tool like starting tomorrow, So I'll do the naps format and the amplifying tool, integrate it into this front end, and on the front end we'll deliver the trucking app. But how the dickens do I forecast how long the trucking app will take? I know it's quick, but how quick?
Well, how long would it take you to get an estimate, and what's the error bars in the estimate? Maybe you just don't care about how long. Just
um,
do it.
just do it, yeah, because we've got to figure out a deal to give them. I'm like, well, I don't really know. It feels like a
How
4 week
long?
thing.
How long, would it take to build a Dreamcatcher? It's like somewhere between 3 months or 7 years.
10 years, yeah.
So the error bars are just too large to
They're
be
almost
ever.
too large to even have it. So you just, yeah, okay, crumbs. Oh, this doesn't really. It does help, but all right. Well, um, I guess I'll just do that for another day, and then come and bitch to you about it.
Yeah, fair enough. And with this conversation and with the commander as it stands now, it will probably be able to. It will be able to generate the so what's and what ifs and what did we miss from this conversation.
Mm.
And then we can look around that in a cut and paste using cursor and so on
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
until you
yeah.
get that. Um,
So it's almost like during this time, I need you to be the project manager. Like you need to be the commander in lieu of the commander, where you go and figure out. Like, remember how, like, remember how good Anton was at just going around and asking everyone what they're up to and checking
oh, he
in,
was a
right?
legend like that.
It's
Yeah,
sort of that because you need to be, I think, saying, thinking through all the stucks and being like, yeah, you said you were going to do the naps thing, and then you said this other thing, but what does that what does that mean? Or like asking questions that cause the stucks to be refined to sort of induce more definition of the stucks, so that you can apply your reasoning tools to calculate out
actually, I think that's a pretty good idea. It's a bit much like being a plenipotentiary for the commander.
what, sorry,
Um, uh, so
a
the
plenipotentiary.
ambassador for the commander, so or the project manager for the
Yeah, like
commander.
the Silver Surfer is for Unicron,
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I think that's probably a good thing to do
right?
for a week
And
or
then
so and
that
see how
way,
it works because or Jarvis or anything like that. I think
something,
there's
a harbinger,
yeah.
someone who precedes the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, because at the moment, with an embarrassment of riches, our uh, main problem is paralysis through analysis, or the legend of
It's
Diogenes' ass, who this donkey
yeah,
that starved to
yeah,
death because it
but
couldn't
it's not.
decide which bale of hail to eat.
It's not. Yes, but not the same. Yeah. So
Why are we looking at pictures of the Fantastic Four?
I don't know. I thought the Silver Surfer was related to Unicron, but maybe I'm mistaken. Um.
Well,
Anyway,
I was the
whatever.
one who nodded, saying, "Yeah, I know what you mean," but actually was referring to your previous comment, not the Silver Surfer one. No idea.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I better correct that. Okay, so crumbs. All right. So if your job is the project manager, you would also be in charge of calculating the estimates,
Mhm.
because you would need to ask me, what about this stuck, that stuck, that stuck, and then part of your reasoning as you're building up the commander is the capacity to put these things in a line and say, well, this,
Yes.
Yeah.
But actually, the way I'd approach that is the way that I've built Commander up to this point, which is uh, number one, to identify tasks and derivative tasks, necessary tasks, and then dedupe between tasks. But for value, um, the estimate at the moment is something that contributes most to most stocks is higher value. Um, it doesn't go into anything like it will take you 4 days.
Sure, sure, sure.
Because hey, you know,
But we should be capturing that because to make to
well,
make this
we
to
can
make this
do.
experiment useful, what we should do is I should have to call my shots and be like, I'm working on this stuck today, and I think it's going to take 3 hours, and then I come back and say this stuck was done and it took 5.5 hours, and so that from that past data, forecasts can be made, even though we don't know. We can still say that it's approximately, we've got something backing up our estimate.
Hmm. Yep, yep, sure.
Yeah.
And actually, I was thinking, in due course, if we simply record time after the fact, then we should be able to get the AI to say, "Oh, this stuck sounds a bit like this one," and you took actually this amount of time, so it's
Mm,
probably going to be about that amount of time. Then it could
mm.
also, if you ahead of time said, "Oh, this is going to take 3 days," and actually takes 3 weeks, it's like, oh, you
That's
know,
a different class of information. That's like my personal estimate versus the
right, and it's the AI's
historical.
estimate on your
Yeah.
ability to estimate.
And then right. And then we should also say like each stuck completion should have a stuck report or a solution report that says what went wrong and what was problematic and all that, because we can identify snags that often take time so that we can look for those snags in the future stucks.
Yeah.
So maybe here's an idea.
Hmm.
Maybe you should be the QA, because now that you have o1-pro, you
Hmm.
can look at my code and you can check it actually,
Hmm.
right? Like you can check the performance of a system using o1-pro just looking at the
By QA, that would be QA assessing a particular render. So
like
using
when I
using the
say
code
this
and
stuck
going,
is solved and I'm like, here's the solution, and you go, we'll see about that, sunshine, and you
yeah,
run your tools to check it,
yeah,
and
and
then
those
if it
two, yeah, I'm just
right.
saying, yeah, and the way you do that is, say if it's an art piece of artifact code, integrate it, use it, try and break it. These are all renders.
Mm.
Take those renders, again,
Right,
having
but
that
there should
go
be
and look at that.
there should be like
Uh,
a format. Like you should, if I gave you, for example, a module and it didn't have any chats with it, you'd be like, dude, where's the chats?
yeah,
And then if it didn't, and eventually we'd get these common errors as a tool that just ran anyway, so that I couldn't submit stuff, you know,
yeah, yeah.
right? But that starts to become a pretty good real world use case that we can, for our next job, whatever we choose to do, if we choose to bring in other people, we have collected data on these techniques, and we're like, here's the project plan per day, and this
and
is the
and
measured
then we
performance.
we choose as we scale up very carefully. It's not really a QA or PM. It's almost like a key customer, isn't it? It's like the guy who says, "Yeah, okay, good, we'll pay
Mm.
you for that."
That's right.
Um,
That's right. That's right. And we start sort of, because there's a lot of short term money to be made from the fact that it's like, just because it's nearly free for us, and I say nearly, I mean like, that's ignoring the past several
mm,
years plus,
hmm,
you
mm,
know, but it doesn't matter that it didn't cost us anything. it matters that no one else can get it for that price, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, even if we turn up and we're offering it for, 2/3 of what the market rate is, but it's also got this great quality,
And it takes a few
that's a
days
lot.
instead of a few months.
That's a lot of margin, and it's not, I think, dishonest in any way to be making that kind of margin because, we suffered to be here. We need payback, and it's a good deal from the market's point of view because it's better quality, cheaper than the incumbent. Who cares if we're making money off it
Yeah.
from their point of view?
Yeah. They shouldn't at all.
Because
Uh,
then at the end, when we actually go to get paid for the tracking app, we can know what our margins were.
yeah.
Because the business valued it at X and it cost us X times point whatever to produce, then, that's a good sign. But if it costs like 1 point something, then that's not so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Precisely.
software at a loss is never.
Never a good idea. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay, that sort of sounds like a plan. Is there anything else to add to the recording before?
I just wanted to get your thoughts on last call. Well, there's a couple of things. Your project map. I went and looked at Zap's repo,
Yep.
and is I think I mentioned it is very close to my thinking on what the commander needs in order to give good quality advice and instructions. However, it's in another repo. So the first thing is whether you concur, because you've seen what's in the briefing folder. And the second thing is we've got stuff scattered over a few repos now, which makes it quite hard to actually do that.
Oh, right.
Consider this, consider that, consider this.
Yeah.
So what do we do about that?
Yeah.
One big repo? I don't know, or
I
just
think
cut and
it's.
paste
I
for
think
now,
it's.
or
I think it's one big repo because, for example, is the commander a nap?
yes.
Yes. Okay. All the naps should go in one place called naps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, makes sense.
You should work in one branch so that you're not missing. We should have a main branch, which is what we publish. You
Mm-hmm.
should have a branch that you work in, and I
Mm-hmm.
should have a branch.
Yep.
I should QA you so that when you want to merge, I'm like, no, buddy, hold it right there.
Yep.
And you should QA me.
Yep. Okay.
And
Sounds
then
good.
we should be working in a single repo, and we'll periodically adjust what the formats of those repos are because thanks to Cursor, we can just bulk alter things that would typically be just a nightmare. We're just
Yeah.
like, do it all, make it all
So,
happen.
I mean, one way of doing that quickly would simply be how many repos do we have? Out of curiosity.
Like, you mean active ones right now?
Yeah.
Active right now are 3. There's the UI front end, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't an app and can't be. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's the naps repo, which is artifact and all the associated naps that go with it. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the reasoning repo.
Okay. So, what's the best way to turn those three into one
I
without
think that
losing any,
if you make sure that you commit
tooling?
for the end of day,
Mm-hmm.
then when I come online tomorrow, I'll merge them.
All right. Yeah, cool. And I'll just cut and paste as required today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, those are the only two things. Did you have when you looked at briefing and the structure of the information given to command, which looks surprisingly like what you came up with in parallel at the same time? Did you have any comments about that?
Let me take a look.
So it's got folders as your folder structure. Yeah, I'm not using emojis.
Why not?
Um,
Ooh.
yeah, why has it done that?
Uh,
I'm just using the tree command line.
it's because you said it was MD, but you need to say you either need to put that in a backtick, a fenced block, so like backtick txt, or change the ending to be .txt.
All right. Let's
Did
see if
you
I
do
sound
this
easy.
after me or
No,
what?
no, no. This is what I was
This is
going
what
through
you'd been
in the
doing,
last
and
comment.
I turned up with the same thing, and you're like, this copying guy.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
And so the commander's got that overall knowledge structure. Now it needs to know what sort of thing it's talking about. So we've got the basic
Oh, this
definition.
was your concat, wasn't it?
Yep.
Can you just
All these
leave
are
them
concat.
as what? That's not a
Um,
concat.
well, except for that one. Yeah.
So
So
not all of them.
okay. All except the one we've already talked about. The strategic tactical tasks of still to rename stucks. I think I did that. I just didn't do the file name, but that's just admin. I'll sort that out. There is folders, which gives the overall knowledge tree. There is readmes, which informs about the what do you mean by each of these folders. There is summaries of our conversations through transcripts, and then the output is what's currently called strategic tactical tasks, but actually stocks.
Yeah, they're all stucks, and the concept I want to introduce is
No, hold a second, they're not all stocks, but keep going.
sorry, all tasks are stucks.
Oh yes, but not all these files are stocks. Yeah,
Correct. Sorry. So the concept of the stucks horizon, because the goal of the commander is always the furthest, is always like on the horizon. But the tricky thing about a horizon is as soon as you get to it, you can see more, and so you end up picking something else. And so
yeah,
that turns what used to be the head mark into just a subservient something on the way.
yeah. I've been thinking about this, and the way I'm thinking about it is there's a bunch of stucks in a folder structure where a stuck can be broken down into smaller stucks if all solved. The top level stuck, which is more easily understandable in the context window, can be done. If it's solved, fine, it turns into NAP. But also, what it allows is because it's hierarchical, it allows it to go horizontal as well as vertical. So the commander doesn't just look down; it can look across and say,
Right.
"This
I
stuck
think
over
of
here looks a
this
lot like that."
I think of the stuck map as looking something like this graph,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, you know, it basically represents dependencies.
Yeah, yeah, it's something like that. Let me forward a really scrappy one. Um,
Uh, Look, I'm gonna have to
uh,
go. I'm gonna have to go, because I need my beauty sleep. Um,
yeah, no worries, man.
but I don't want to get into the process of designing stucks. I'm just saying that we
Yeah,
gotta have.
my
It looks like this.
yeah, yeah, and a graph is the same as a hierarchy with links, effectively, where the links have information. Uh, maybe we should switch to graph. Don't know. Probably not because we're working at the moment. Get maybe later.
No, it actually
But
needs to be a graph because I have a data structure in mind for that. That was one of the things that I think is a stuck that I should be tackling early is the data structure and storage formats of stucks and how they actually can, like, ignoring the contents of them. I need to lay down the foundation that is like this function call results in a stuck. This query looks at the stucks. This is the contents of a stuck. This is the JSON
um,
schema that represents a stuck.
And so the underlying knowledge store is in a graph.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
very
bit of
happy.
a
I'm very happy with that.
it's
I
a
love graphs.
it's a
Graphs are
very
brilliant.
it's a bit of it's a bit of a special one in that it needs to be multiverse compatible, so there needs to be the ability to have like the same stuck, but there's different opinions as to how the path to get there goes.
Well, that's easy enough because graphs are inherently n-dimensional through using filters.
No, because each commander needs to like anyway, that's the details
All
of
right.
it. But some that should be a stuck that I do is make the stuck's data structure. Your job, I think, is to parse that, query it, walk it, prompt for it so that the
Yes.
commander interprets it correctly, right? So I give you the data structure to walk through and I give you some shitty examples and be like, I don't know how to
Yeah.
I don't know how the rest of it works, but you figure that bit out. I
Right.
just care about the data structure.
Yeah. But there's a stack of stuff, and so for
A
now, what
stack
I'm
of
going to
stats.
do is uh, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about the knowledge domain on how to structure this. I can express that as a stuck on what it needs to do, but not how it does it, and then over to you to
Yeah,
implement it.
right. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that works good. That works good. So that's pretty important. Okay.
All right, but yeah, okay. So um, I don't
All
know if you
right.
had any other thoughts, but
No,
other than
that's it
that,
for me.
and
All
the
right.
multiple repo thing.
So you make sure you commit at the end of today, and then
Yep,
I'll merge it in
yep.
to the single naps repo. And now we make
One
naps.
one repo to rule them all. Yep.
Yeah. And then you can have your own branch, and then I'll have my own one, and we can merge periodically,
Yeah, yeah. Much
ceremoniously.
much better.
All right. Okay, I'll
Okay.
stop. I'll stop.